Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be watching at this time. This is Yvener Duroseau, and you're watching live with Yvener Duroseau. Is your health important? And many times we often hear that our health is our wealth. Today we have an amazing guest. I'm excited about the conversation we're about to have. We have a wellness coach and consultant. Today, she will be sharing her story with us. And when I say an amazing guest, I really mean that. What's special about her, she is dedicated to help you live a healthy life. Please join me as I introduce Miss Marie Celestin. Marie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
See, as I said the name the
Yes,
same way your parents would say, Marie Celestin.
in your mother's tongue, and it's done. It's beautiful. So thank you for introducing me. I could, this is the best way to really share the name because I don't hear that often. So I'm like, is that me? Is this how you say it? So it's great. It's a treat. Thank you.
I am so happy to have you on the show this evening. And health and wellness is one of the topic that people should really talk more about. Because if you don't have your health, you cannot do anything.
Mhm.
And as we said, your health is your wealth. If you don't have your health, you cannot produce wealth.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So this is why I am so excited about this topic today. And I did introduce you a bit, but can you tell us, just to introduce this topic today
Mhm.
for the audience, who is Marie Celestin?
Oh, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go with the deep questions. So you know some of it. The deep. Who are you? Who are you? Let's go back to the Lion King. So I am the daughter of Haitian immigrants. I am, I'm based in Boston. My family originally from Haiti. I've been in Boston my whole life in terms of school, work, and truly experiencing success in the city of Boston. And so it's been amazing just growing up here, um, growing my family here, and really becoming who I am in this city. And so a lot of the work I do is in honor and for the legacy of the women who raised me specifically, but of course to make my family and my country proud. And so that's who I am. It's really someone who is a servant. I am passionate about helping others, but ensuring that we live a healthy, full life that's centered on joy. And I know we are still in a pandemic. And so for me, it's really about in spite of those struggles, in spite of our circumstances, is to really think about how do we still add a little piece of joy. And for me, my life is not perfect. And, I even think about even though, I'm living in a place that I love, surrounded by community, there was a time in my life where it's like it was struggle after the other. I lost jobs right here in the city of Boston. I've lost my aunt who raised me in Haiti. I lost my mom and I also
I'm
lost
so
my
sorry.
grandmother. So all these things made me the woman that I am, but every day I'm making them all proud, knowing that they're with me and really living the way they raised me, right? I'm still thinking about what would they say? And for me, it's about that. It's about our culture. It's about really ensuring that we continue sharing all stories because we've done so much when we think about the Haitian people and we're still going through. There are days I tell people I'm a reflection of my country. Like in terms of
Mhm.
when you see what we go through, and I go through that personally as well. When you see one thing after the other, one crisis, one natural disaster, that's
Mhm.
literally my life. And to still be standing here today and gratitude and feeling truly, truly um, blessed to still be able to have breath, to have people in my life, and still be making a positive impact every single day, no matter what. So that's what captured me as the person in front of you.
Wow, I can connect to something you just said that where you can always hear your mom's voice.
Mm.
And even till this day, right? Just a very basic example. If I just open the door and I let's say I don't have a t-shirt on and it's cold, and I would hear my mom's voice say, "Oh, pico sorteio aconsa
Raise your jacket.
you
You're gonna
know,
catch a cold.
you're gonna catch a cold. Don't go out there like this." I would hear her voice saying those things, even though I haven't lived with her for so long. I mean, I left my
Mm-hmm.
parents' house. I think I was 21 or 22 years old.
Mm.
It's been so many years, and I could still hear her voice saying, "Hey, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't
Hmm.
do that. Don't do this."
Yeah, our ancestors are still with us, guiding us and ensuring that we live. And you can hear those voices too in a good way. And so for me, I do listen to those whispers from our ancestors,
Mhm.
or good ancestors, and still
Yes.
want to live the way they raised us.
Yeah. Fortunately, she is not an ancestor. She is still alive.
For me, I mean, for me, in terms of all
Oh,
these
for you.
women, like similar to you, I still hear,
Mhm.
um, in terms of what they would want me to do, because culturally I value that in terms of, I know they're always with me. But again, distance doesn't really matter, right? Because you're
Right.
gonna hear you're gonna hear that voice in terms of what they really how they taught you who to be. And
Mhm.
especially when you're in different spaces, you're still being as such. And I think even when we're talking about the health part, now I talk more about how we being healthy, because we can talk about it all we want. We're good at talking about stuff.
Mhm.
It's just how we being and becoming more of how we were raised to be, and how we're defining that ourselves, as adults. Like, you can still hear the voice, even if she's not with you, but how are you yourself as an adult now?
Mhm.
Whether you're applying them, but how you redefining them for your own self.
Yes, and it's such a you put it so well. Earlier, I was watching a video, and the guy's a motivational speaker, who's a guy that I'm gonna have on the show next month. He was saying we don't have a lack of information.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that people not doing things. We live in a world of where people they're not healthy, and we have all of the information out there as far as what to do and what to eat.
Right.
It's just that people are not doing them.
No.
We're
And
not
people
doing.
know what to do. People know what to do, especially when it comes to
Yes.
health. It's not a lack of knowledge, like you said, or lack of information, or lack of anything. It's just a matter of applying. And I think
Mhm.
even the people who are applying it sometimes, imagine if they apply like even 50 or 60% of what they truly know,
Mhm.
and make that a lifestyle and make that a habit. Oh my God, like it's unreal what would how their lives would transformed, versus just doing the basic or not doing anything at all and
Mhm.
expecting results, right? And so it's always interesting to me when people don't do anything and they're like, how come this is not happening? It's like you have to put in the work for that to
You have to
happen.
put in
Or
the work.
yeah.
Yes. 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 So, Marie, what does holistic wellness focus on?
Holistic wellness. Well, holistic wellness is really inside and out. So a lot
Mhm.
of time we're in a culture where we focus on the external, like how good you look, how fit you are, how fast, and all these different things. So for me, at the core of the work is really the inside. So a lot of us, we could appear to be like on top health, right? In top health. But what's going on inside may not reflect what's going on outside. So really
Mhm.
holistically take the whole person in, versus just taking little pieces at a time. Like, you see people do that sometimes, where they just focus on the stomach and this and that, but really it's you as a whole person, who you are. You really think also about like your roots and where you're from, energy. Like, there's so much that's part of it, versus something you're just dealing with on the surface. And
Mhm.
again, even as a country and as a culture, we love to focus on the surface, like what's the things you can see, versus like what's going on inside of us. And for me, it's about being healthy inside and out, versus just focusing on the physical, but also the mental. Like, you take all the different pieces, mental, physical, spiritual, all the different aspect of it. We are multi-layered. And so it cannot just be one thing, where I know a lot of people sometimes it's all about what you're eating. But
Hmm.
to me, a lot of it is about what are you putting in your mind? What are you saying to yourself? What are you planting? Like those words you see, the things you're watching, your self talk, what you're saying to yourself, those are the things that are truly impacting you in a negative way. But sometimes people don't think about that.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. For example, I can go to the gym and pump up, and it's like big and nice muscles, but
The
my
muscles.
mind can be just pretty horrible.
But you don't work them the same way, right? The mental fitness or the muscles with your mind. And that's why I know you also mentioned mindset in terms of that's a shift that has to happen in our mind in terms of what we believe, what we're thinking, which would translate into who we being and what we get to project truly in terms of who we are and in our health, but also who's around you. Because a lot of time you literally projecting your circle. Like if you know when you want to be healthy and then there are other people around you where that's when they want to offer you the
Hmm.
pies, the whatever. But imagine if your circle reflect your values. They are in alignment with the type of life you want to live
Hmm.
and who you want to become and being more of, then there won't be any tension in terms of you trying to be healthy. It's simply become a way of being and it's your lifestyle, and it's a reflex. You just do it without any thought. It's not hard work, right? Because you
Hmm.
made it part of it's your lifestyle, so you don't have to think about it to do the right thing for yourself.
Absolutely. And that leads me to the next question. So, how do we improve our holistic wellness?
Improvement to me, it's about one thing at a time,
Hmm.
right? And so I think a lot of time we try to do everything, and this is the time of the year where we have what? How many days left? 13 barely.
13 days, right?
13 days. The resolutions are going to start coming. You have people saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Where decide what's a priority, right? Is
Hmm.
it focusing on, let's say stress, right? And stress is at the core of everything. So it could be some people might just be like, I just want to move more, right? Move more. It doesn't mean you go to the gym 5 days a week or 7 days a week for an hour. You lift, you do everything. You do one thing. It could just be, I'm just going to walk for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and gradually build on that. Others might be, I just want to practice self care in terms of how I'm treating myself. It's not just going to the spa and doing all these things, again, the external things, but the idea, even in a pandemic, people are not taking enough break. People are not recharging. People are not resetting and really taking breaks throughout the day where you just quiet your mind. Like there's so much noise in our spaces,
Hmm.
whether we're at home, at work, in the street. So the ability to simply find ways to literally calm yourselves and be okay by yourself. I think a lot of us, we have a hard time. Being busy allow us not to think about us, not to think about self, and even
Hmm.
doing a self check and be like, okay, how am I feeling? How am I doing? Like recently, I've been asking people about. It would be amazing if we treat ourselves the way we treat our phones and our cars, right?
Oh my goodness. That is a
Even
mic
take the
drop.
phone. Okay. So you
Say
see
it
the
again,
phone.
please.
Treat yourself the way you treat your car and your phone, right? We practically sleep with our phones. If your phone is like barely like 80%, like early, I don't know what you were charging, and you're like, what do? Do you let your phone completely die and then you're like, I gotta charge it? Or the moment you see that it's being depleted, that the battery is going down, you're like, I need to charge it. It's the same for us. There are many people who wait until they're completely depleted, they get sick, and they're literally knocked down. Then they're like, okay, I need a break. I need to take better care of myself. I need to, reduce the number of hours or the number of things on my plate. I gotta, right? And a lot of us are functioning based on crisis or wake up call or diagnosis. Until then, being healthy is an option. Being healthy is something you get to talk about. Being healthy is something someday I'm going to be healthy. Next year, okay? The new year's coming. We can wait. I can't start today. So for me, it's about thinking about that one thing that you can commit to, that you do a little bit every single day. And you get to choose that based again on what's your priority. Like someone who's like, I barely drink any water. So based on our conversation, based on what you're willing to do, because again, we can talk about what to do all we want. Are you willing to truly take the time and invest in what you need to do a little bit every single day? Just a little bit. That's it. not a whole change everything at once. We know change is hard, but just what is that one thing that can help you start on that healthy journey? And it's a lifetime commitment, right? It's not
Mhm.
something we're gonna do in 7 days. I can never make those promises. I cannot make you or turn you into a healthy person in 2 days or
Mhm.
overnight, because those habits are like lifetime. It took you years to develop them, right? To be who
Mhm.
you are today. So there's no way we can say we're gonna transform in 2 days, right? And I often compare it to like planting seeds, and when you're gardening, like you can plant something today and say tomorrow I'm
Mhm.
going to harvest an apple because you did it yesterday. So habits are the same way. You have to nurture them, practice them every single day. And then eventually it'll become, you'll be who you want to be, and it won't be hard for you to practice that.
Yeah. And I also believe that it's a decision. You know,
Mm,
it's a decision. It's a choice. And many times, as we're getting closer to the new year, and people, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go ahead and go to Planet Fitness. I'm gonna go to 10 Gym. I'm gonna go to do this. I'm gonna do that.
gonna, gonna.
And 2 weeks into January, it's over. It's done.
No,
No more
good.
gym. No more
Done.
exercises. None. And what I came to understand is that New Year's resolution, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. And I think people should make a decision, choose to wake up and work out, and choose uh, to stop eating the crap, if if I can say that.
Mm,
All of these things that are not good for you, and you know it's not good for you. You know too much alcohol is not good. Just reduce on the alcohol. Now we're not
yeah.
saying just stop right away because it's not going to be easy,
Yeah.
but start slowly, little by little.
Mini steps. I think the little mini steps. I think the one thing I would add, there
Mhm.
are some where it's not that simple because there are certain conditions you end up having. It's just certain medical conditions or things are hereditary, for example. But there are some people sometimes that I see where I'm like, wow, like where I get so motivated. Like one of the coaches that I met, he is so amazing. His first name is Nick, where I think he has no legs. He has one arm and one finger.
Oh,
I
are you
think
talking about Nick Vujicic?
Nick.
Yep,
And
I
I
met
did his
him. I
yeah,
met
I
him.
did his
Yep.
training, and I'm just like, what's my excuse? What is my excuse when everything is working? Now, it doesn't mean you may not be experiencing pain or things may not be difficult, but like you said, you make a decision, but you also commit, but you know there's gonna be discipline, but you know it's something you gotta do, right? It's not even a gonna, you got to. So
You
when you
got
start
to.
doing that and you know it's good for you and you feel good doing that and you know the benefit of it, right? And you
Hmm.
can see the result, you gotta stick to it. And so every day you wake up and it's like, I think he said something like, I get to walk out, I get to walk, I get to work out and do things that I enjoy. I get to drink this water that's really gonna nourish me and hydrate me. I get to do those things, right? It's very different than when you're dreading it. And that's why the mind is also that. Because if you're like, oh my God, I gotta get to the gym, you you're not gonna want to keep doing that for 20, 30 minutes or even an hour, right?
Hmm.
But if you go in there with a different way of being or approaching it and seeing it for what it is, and like you said, do a little bit. Like when you're starting out, 20 minutes is enough and gradually build. I think what I see people doing is they try to do everything like the first 2 weeks of the year, right? And
Hmm.
then they get exhausted or sometimes they hurt themselves. But if you just commit, like you said, and decide, you know what, 3 days a week, I'm just gonna do about 30 minutes or so, and then gradually build it. Or every day, I'm gonna make sure I start my day with a glass of water. Or I'm gonna do some breathing exercises. Your community is active. They have so many questions, and there are
Yes,
so many little
we will
things.
answer some of them in a
Mhm.
minute.
And there's so many little things you can do, but you can decide in terms of what those are. There are some people, some things work for them, some doesn't. So part of it is also that self-awareness in terms of what do you like, what works for you, and be willing to find out what those things are. Because you might do one thing where you're like, oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. and I go jogging, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. who will not be going out at 5 a.m. So think about what is it, that thing that you'll be willing to do and can maintain, right?
Mhm.
This is not something you're gonna do for 28 days or 30 days or 21 days or 7-day challenge, and then ooh, when it's over, you're like, you're done. We need momentum. We need to maintain and sustain those healthy habits.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And you talk also about how people of color are affected by every health issues and chronic diseases. Uh, if can you talk a little bit about that? How can uh, melanin people can improve their health and wellness?
Mm. Yeah, that is a global global issue, and this is pre-pandemic, by the way. So a lot of those things that we're dealing with as a community, they are literally pre-existing condition pre-pandemic, and it just aggravated them to be to be in the situation that we in. And so my background, I started out as a health educator in a medical center, and so my work was in a clinical setting in terms of working with people. And so I see all the numbers from, whether it's even now as you look at the numbers, whether it's diabetes, whether it's fibroids, we have maternal, maternal health is, I mean, I used to think you have to be in a third world country for women to be dying during childbirth. You have obesity. I mean, so many different issues, cancer, all the people that I mentioned to you, it's like every other person has a health issue, whether diagnosed or undiagnosed. And it get worse because of how we're living. And we're also working in spaces that are so toxic. So stress
Mhm.
is truly the number one anyone. It doesn't matter your economic status.
The
Stress
silent
is
killer.
silent, and it's at the core of everything, right? Even in a pandemic. And sometimes it's we not coping with that well. We think by just keep doing and doing. But also don't forget we live in this hustle and bustle, grinding culture where the more you do, the more you get rewarded. And so a lot of time people will do 60, 80, 100 just to be like, I can work hard and play hard, and but nobody's resting. Nobody's really practicing restorative rest. They sleep, one eye is closed. That's very different than someone who rests for, let's say, 6 to 8 hours, and they feel refreshed and renewed and they get to work. But you hear a lot of people, they're tired, they don't have energy, brain fog, and there's all kind of issues that are happening. And so when you look at the numbers, most people might be living with them, but when it comes to communities of colors, many people, it's fatal. Whatever that thing is, it is fatal, which means literally we have to be, this has to be a health crisis in this country, even before the pandemic, to say, what do we need to do differently as a community, and how to really look at those things in terms of how we being, and so many things are impacted by it, right? When you think of like even the systems that are in place where people don't have access to healthcare. And I'm fortunate that I work with people about eating healthy, but you're also dealing with food insecurity, housing insecurity, so many different things which really aggravate all these other issues, where sometimes being healthy feel like a privilege, a luxury, to be able to take care of yourself and not be stressed out about being healthy. Can you imagine that? It's like you're already stressed about everything else. And now added to that is we don't have access in terms of getting good care, access to doctors who are actually listening to people. And is speaking as a woman of color in terms of pain is another thing. Like I remember when I, after giving birth, and I share what the number, what my pain level was, and they're like, "Oh, that person didn't believe me." And so you have a lot of time, like those we're working with who are not culturally trained or sensitive to really think about the populations that they're working with and to take that into account. But also, it's really us. We need to take charge of our own health. And I know we talk also about wealth. To me, looking at health also generationally, really building generational health is as important as building generational wealth. And so
Mm.
that's an issue that has to be talked about together. Sometimes we do it separately, like it's two different things. Like when you think about what do people stress the most about, right? Money is at the core
Money.
of it.
Mhm.
Keeping job is at the core of it. And what's the thing that can take somebody out within minutes? Medical bills, housing bills, all these things. So it's they're intertwined. And so we talk about these things like in a intersectional way where we include all the pieces and seeing how that person. And that's part of holistic health, right? Like you don't chop the person and say, let's focus on this part, and then
Mhm.
you forget the other one. Like you really need to think about the whole person and how everything in the environment, everything in the way where they live, and so many different things. And even when you think about, the city where you live, like your zip code also is a reflection of how healthy or wealthy somebody is. And so it's hard
Mm.
to separate all these things because where you live, the city you in, where your kids go to school, where you work, all these things have an impact on the type of lifestyle or healthy lifestyle or unhealthy lifestyle that you have.
So you think we have a health divide,
Mm-hmm.
just like we have a racial divide, a
We should do.
socioeconomic divide. We also have a health divide because
Mm-hmm.
there is no equality in healthcare, or so we need not just healthcare equality but healthcare equity.
Inequity. Yep.
We all at a different level in our
Mm-hmm.
health. So I don't think we have a healthcare system that is meeting everyone where they are in terms of their health.
Why? I mean, you have to look at it as the country as a whole. Like a lot of time, I compare US with other countries in terms of what they have in place and how challenging and so many red tapes in terms of just basic, like what we're not even asking for, like the ultimate sort of like health package, right? We just basic way of like taking care of yourself just to live, right? And that should just be a universal right for everyone versus just like if you happen to have a good job, you happen to get into a good healthcare plan, then you get it. And then you have the people, if you don't have the means, then that means you're not included in that. And so
Mhm.
this is something that's been literally plaguing this country for years. And I don't even know if it's something truly that's going to be addressed or want to be addressed because, you
Mhm.
compare it to other, you know, superpowers or so forth, or other countries similar to the US. And you see, even when you think about family leave or how long you can take when you're raising a family or somebody's sick in your family, or even when someone passed away, like when you see how much time you have, and everyone is always concerned more about like, okay, I can't afford to lose this job, right? So you keep working and doing things so you can keep it. But I think fundamentally to really look at and see, is that something that's important as a nation? And I think it, when you look at our systems, all the systems are interconnected.
Mhm.
Like system inequality is real in every aspect of our lives. And
Mhm.
so that's why it's hard to talk about one and not talk about the other. But
Right.
sometimes too, we don't want to learn from people who are doing it well. There are some countries like we think they're this level or that level where they really they have a good model that we can learn from, but we
Mhm.
don't want to. But also, don't forget the economic factor. I think there isn't, it's difficult to monetize health. I think you can get richer through people, through disease. And so I don't know if we
Say
all
it again.
yes, if we all decided to be healthy, I think that would be a crisis in some situation because it's like, what exactly, how are we going to make money, right? And so when I see so many disease, and I mean, I was even looking at how quickly we were able to come with a solution for COVID, and I'm like, I'm seeing at so many things that I see family members deals with, and they're still unresolved. We still don't have a cure for certain things, and I'm like, why isn't that an urgency to figure out how we can cure cancer, find a vaccine for some other things that are literally still killing people in addition to COVID every single day? Like heart disease is still a thing, and so many different things. So why is it like this is an urgent matter? We got to figure out how to do it. But also you're thinking about, we haven't even talked about food in terms of what we're eating and the things we put in our mouth and our bodies and so forth. And so when you think about it, if we truly turn into a place where we depend on what, let's say, what we grow and things that are naturally done versus everything we do in this culture is in a bottle,
Mhm.
and we grew up and conditioned to believe the answer to healthy lifestyle and the answer even to happiness and joy comes in a bottle. It's packaged. It's not like in nature. It's not within you. It's not within us. It's not within our community. It comes in a prescription, and that has to
Using a
shift.
prescription.
It's a prescription.
Absolutely. That is. That is so amazing. And just a quick refresh, you're watching at this time live with Yvener Duroseau, and I have my special guest, Miss Marie Celestin. She is a wellness coach and consultant. Today we are talking about our health. Our health is our wealth, and the ways that we can prioritize our holistic wellness uh, to stay healthy and and live a better life. And we're gonna take a short break for just about a minute or so, and we'll be back with Marie Celestin.
Human race is unique. Despite our many differences, religion, beliefs, race, skin color, or personal prejudices, there's still one thing that holds our world together. We are all human. We have, however, failed to see the beauty in the uniqueness of humankind, and this is only because we have been blinded by hate, bigotry, envy, and fear. We have let hatred rule us, even divide us, and fear keeps us from fixing the mess. But it's time to wake up and see that everyone is created equal, perfect, and no different. Yes, it is true that people have been born into unequal circumstances, which oftentimes leads them to make choices either good or bad, but we are still the same regardless. At this point, you may be asking, how can this be? This book will help you find out how there are no differences at all. Hello there. You should know that no matter the color of your skin, race, gender, economic rank, sexual identity, or social status, we are all human before anything else. In our diversities, we can still achieve oneness. Hatred may have ripped us apart, but there is still a way to mend the tear if only we can fix ourselves first, letting the uniqueness of the human race reflect inward and then to the outside, healing the human race. It is important that we mend the tear, and more importantly, that we do it now. This book will serve as a guide to healing.
We are back with Marie Celestin, our special guest this afternoon. And there's so many things, so many questions, and we will answer some of the questions from the audience.
Okay.
And if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, please share this live and like and subscribe to our channel. So when we have great content like this, you get notification, you get notified about what we're talking about and things that can help you live a better life. So we talk about wellness. We talk about holistic um, wellness.
Hmm.
How do we cultivate healthy habits? Healthy habits, regardless of our economic status and circumstances. Because right now we have, my goodness,
Mm.
people are struggling. I mean, people are struggling all over the world. And one might say, hey, right now, I'm only focusing on staying alive.
Yes.
I don't have the money to shop at those fresh markets and
Hmm.
Whole Food and Trader Joe's and all of these
Fancy.
health stores that
Yeah.
people shop.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I hear that a lot, and it's not, we think it's those things, right? And it's part of it. I think somebody even mentioned that in the chat in terms of like money's at the core of it, but even sometimes someone who may have money, they're
Mhm.
still unhealthy, right? So for
Right.
those who are like, oh, it's gonna be so expensive. The other part too is that's one of the reason like thinking about who we are, our roots, where we come from, or even the idea of like how did our family do it? One thing I want us to do more of is really sharing our stories of
Mhm.
where we come from, our families, the way they were taking care of themselves, right? There was a time we do everything. We literally live from the earth. We learn how to grow things. We eat from what we grow. We eat from what we make. Versus now, where everything we consume, everything we have to go somewhere to get it. Even though we live in the most advanced part of the world where you can learn everything, grow everything, and do it yourself in terms of doing that. But we always think it's too expensive.
Hmm.
But really, again, it's all about priority. When you see what we choose to prioritize, what we choose to spend money on, right? And even recently, when I see who's like, for me, it took years to be able to say, I'm going to get an iPhone. And I always tell people, I don't have iPhone budget. Therefore, I cannot spend that. But you see someone who would spend money on one thing. Let's say I don't have money to spend money on, let's say, even though kale may not be your favorite thing, but the alternative in terms of like a healthy meal because it costs too much. But in a way, it's really not about the money. It's about the decision and how to spend what we have. Like we choose, we make those decisions to buy it. Some people, there are others where it's like you stretch your dollars in terms of what you can get. And it is hard sometimes to see how accessible the fast foods are. Like you don't see a corner with like five supermarkets with healthy food and fruits and stuff that you need, but you see every other. And again, we go back to the idea of when you see underserved communities, when you compare underserved communities and those who are more wealthy, the chances of you two, three, five, like a liquor store, the fast food place, that thing, and those communities are so rare. Like you just have to compare. It's not even opinion anymore, right? And
Hmm.
so sometimes looking at the zip code, who lives there and what's allowed. Like there's some communities that I'm in, I don't even think there's like one McDonald's that's there, that's or one fast food anything. They may have a deli and some other things, right? And so I think people have to think about what's there and then what's not there. Like I know in some communities where people are literally doing, I don't know, it's called like it might be called like they're like desert areas where it's like you're not able to find anything. And so people are literally taking abandoned lot and different places and saying, we're gonna learn how to grow our own food. We're gonna
Hmm.
make sure we provide and that taking care of ourselves, it's a community issue. Like feeding each other is part of being, who we are in terms of learning how to grow it. But also sometimes people think it's going to be policy, right? It's going to be policy. Some decision is going to be made in terms of things are going to be affordable. I mean, you see the pandemic not things are not really drastically changing because of that. And so we have to start thinking about what are we going to be doing differently. This year, one of the things I was able to participate in was a book called One Habit to Thrive in a Post-COVID World, where each person was able to come up with like, what is that one habit that you need or that has worked for them in terms of making those decisions, right? And so some people it's basic things you would think like it's not as big as you think, like food is part of it, right? But it's really thinking about regardless of what you have. Like if you think even our own background in places where you like people have so little and how they stretch what they have based on where they live and how people just eat again from what you get to cook, what you get to create versus I can buy the fancy whatever. Like you know what I mean? Like sometimes
Hmm.
organic it's truly just came directly from the earth where I know where it came from, or I'm the one who planted the seeds and I was able to grow it. But we almost have to go back and retrain and recondition ourselves in terms of how, where do our food come from? Are we willing to go back to basic in terms of do you want to grow your own food? Do you want to find a way to make it affordable where it's more of a community practice versus something where it's like like right now when you look at it everything is so expensive because of demand but also because of lack during the pandemic, right?
Hmm.
And so some people are doing practices that work for them in some communities. Like you see, there's like community gardens, for example. Regardless whether you live in an urban or suburban or a small town or rural or city, people are finding ways to say, "Oh my goodness, I can grow this like in a container. I can learn to see what are the foods that I need to grow that I need to live." Right? Because you have the combination where we're dealing with both food insecurity, but also you have obesity, right? Like there's a lack, and then there's also like too much, right? So you have this tension going on in terms of, but how do we grow the good stuff, right? And how do you do it in a way where we don't use lack as the reason, right? Because we live in places where we have more than enough. It's a matter of if we're growing it. Like when you think of certain places, like when you think of communities, for example, I'm not thinking of just feeding my family, right? So if I have a garden, if I'm growing things even in my own backyard, we have a shared economy. Like we share what we have
Mhm.
versus you need to figure out what to do for yourself. If you can afford it, you can. If you cannot, you cannot. So I think those practices have to also be taken into account in terms of we have to live better with each other or more differently, and using this as an opportunity to see what can we do differently based on the community that we live in, and then what's a priority for us, right? Because I know a lot of times we're gonna think it's policy, it's government, it's somebody else externally that has to come in and come up with something. But you cannot dictate those things. Like they
Mhm.
can be creative, but as you can see, sometimes it doesn't really produce what you would think it would produce in terms of really cultivate equality and for people to feel like we're going to be sharing everything or for it to be fair, for example. But I think it's an opportunity for us to look at ourselves and see how we're doing certain things. And a lot of time, like you said, the information is there. It's not a lack of information. So many communities are doing things successfully. For me, I'm always looking at what other cities, what are they doing? What is that small town doing that allow them to thrive in spite of being in a pandemic, or how they're dealing with like children who don't have access, or we have some communities who are truly struggling. When you think of new refugees coming in, like how are they navigating so they can get the resources that they need, and how being in one of the richest places in the world can this be an acceptable condition for humans to be in and not being able to, and having a lack of everything from like housing, access to health, and just basic day-to-day needs for people to live.
Wow. I mean, what you just said, it makes a lot of sense. And I believe there are a few things that you cannot legislate.
Hmm.
You can, it doesn't matter you had the best city government, the best state government, the best federal government in your country. They cannot legislate choices. You can be rich and you choose the worst eating habits.
True.
You can be poor and you do the same thing. And what I think people should really look at is their responsibilities to take care of themselves.
And each other.
Yes, and each other individually. And this morning, I woke up and very early, and usually there's a park every time I drive by, and I see people running. Most of the time, the people that I see running at the park, they are people that you can say average size.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that when I say average size, some people may misunderstand what I say, but like people that you would think that don't need to
Mm,
exercise,
okay.
but though you see them running at the park at 7 o'clock in the morning while it's 40 degrees,
No matter what.
no matter what. While if you drive a few blocks down the road and you go to Burger King or IHOP and those fast food places, you see a lot of the people that could use that time, that 7 a.m., that 8 a.m., to do some exercise. And those things government cannot do for you.
Mm.
You have to make the choice. You have to choose to be healthy. Health is a choice.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think the one thing I would add is reprogramming our own selves too, because
mhm,
in a way, when you see the food system here,
mhm,
there are certain things where literally they start so young. I think you asked the question early in terms of how do
mhm,
we start. I mean, for me, sometimes I feel like, I'm not that much older and I feel like I started too late, right? I feel like I
mhm,
started when I started seeing the examples around me in terms of family getting sick and dying.
mhm,
Or so imagine how we raise our children, how
mhm,
quickly they get addicted to sugar, how quickly they get addicted to sodium and
mhm,
salt and the things that are like very, they're tasty, but they're not the greatest in terms of truly a child should be having, and
Mm-hmm.
how these are the things are the most prominent when you go to any supermarket, or most supermarkets, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why is that so common? Like, why is it acceptable in our country for that to be the start?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's a start not for everyone, right? Because there's some children you would still meet and say, they're not allowed to drink this, they're not allowed to do certain things, and it stays with them. But even as an adult, how do we shift and say, I recognize now this is not healthy for me? Or perhaps even after you get a diagnosis, sometimes the hardest people to even get on a path of healthy lifestyle are the people with issues. They actually have a diagnosis in terms of, you have this issue. If you don't make the shift in terms of eating healthy or making food as part of your medicine, we know what the outcome is going to be. Like, we literally, it's like watching a movie, we know the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know
Mm-hmm.
where this is going, right? But if you
Yes.
make those tweaks and those small changes, and
Mm-hmm.
reprogram yourself to see, okay, I need to literally gradually start weaning off the sugar and those things that's in your body now that you're literally fighting because you're so used to it, right? Like, you grew up with sugar and now you're like, why is it so hard? And then the chemicals that are in our food, it's like you literally fighting an addiction for you to get off of it because we started so young eating those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, Mali, I know that you are currently working on a groundbreaking campaign to support students, and entrepreneurs, and the nonprofit leaders of color. Can you tell us a little bit about this project?
Sure. The beauty of my work is I get to literally combine everything I love. It's a fusion of my passion and how I want to make an impact in the world. And so currently I have the opportunity, I get to work on MBM Drive for Five. And as you know, we talked about everything, whether it's health, wealth, and so
You
many
said
issues in our culture.
MBN.
Underserved communities are affected. And so
Okay.
this is about raising funds to make sure that students of color and those organizations that are led by Black and brown folks get resources that they need. And so we're using the African American Historical Journal as a fundraising tool for us to raise the money that we need to be able to fund the projects that are important in our community. And so we want to raise $500,000 this month, by the 23rd this month, to be able to support nonprofits, small businesses, students of color who are struggling to have jobs, but also those leaders who need those grants that they stay open during the pandemic. And so I'm asking and inviting you to join me on this campaign. I have the opportunity to lead the Sojourner Truth team as a way to honor her as a historical figure who fought for the rights that we have today. And so each team picks someone, and she's the one where I feel like we really need to really think about the stories of what they've done for us to be here. And so everyone is invited. This is for everyone. Like that journal, in terms of what we don't learn in school, you get to see the achievements of African American throughout history.
What does the acronym MBM stand for?
So MBN is the Matthews Business Network. And so this is a member centric organization made up of Black and brown folks
You said Masters
globally.
Business Network?
Matthews.
Oh, Matthews. Okay.
Matthews Business Network. And so all the entrepreneurs, they are in the US and Asia and the Caribbean, and growing into Europe and then Africa next year. And so this is an international group, but everyone is working to ensure that we support each other, but we also uplifting and making sure we stay connected, but also that our dollars are spent within our communities, and make sure that we are making sure that what's needed, we able to provide those resources instead of looking externally.
So, how can the audience support this movement?
So they can support this movement. They can go to mbnconnect.com. And this is where you're going to be learning more about the campaign itself. And anyone can get a pack of journals of 5, 10, 20. I'm asking those who are teachers, educators, parents, regardless of the field that you in, to join us and get your five. I got my five, and I want to encourage each of your viewers to also get their five by supporting this cause and ensuring that they credit the Sojourner Truth team. So you put that in a box when you're doing that. But you can also DM me. I'm on Instagram. And if you DM me Drive for Five, I'll be able to share more information with you as well. But I do hope everyone say yes to that invitation, share it with someone you may know. I'm right now reaching out to libraries and schools and teachers and those who are in the nonprofit sector. Yes, get you five. So I got my five. I'm so excited. And you get to learn about all these amazing people. As you know, we're not learning about these things at school, right? You learn a little bit about our history, our culture, and we're building a griot culture in terms of where we get to tell our stories,
Mhm.
our ancestors' stories, but also the future we are imagining, reimagining right now, and making sure that we're building our legacies and sharing the stories we wanna tell and the true story, which is why again I chose the journey of truth in terms of us living a healthy and truthful life.
And I do have, as you're talking about it, and I do have the website on the screen as well as
Awesome.
the link, which is mbnconnect.com. If you want to support this movement, go to this website. Uh, the website is on the screen as well, to support this movement, because it takes all of us, not just me, not just Marie, not just John, not just MD,
Everyone.
everyone.
Everyone. It's together. We do so much when we're united. The power we have when we're united is we are unstoppable when we're united.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So we have so many people. We have right now
Questions.
33 people. At least we're going to answer one question from the audience. And there's
One
one
question.
at least one. At least one. And you pick which one, because I think so many people had asked so many
Ooh,
questions on here.
you have a
And I'm sure,
great audience.
yes, they're very active,
Thank you all
sure
for
and I'm sure more people will be asking questions on
yes.
YouTube. And someone asked earlier, Khan, he says, how long does it take our body to recover from stress?
Oh my goodness. I saw that one too, and I'm like, whew, that looks like a research question. How? But here's the thing. We really overexhaust our body, right? You heard the analogy I share in terms of our car and our
Mhm,
phone. We would not want to be texting this, right? It's like saying, let's see how long I can drive without gas running out. Don't
mhm,
don't do that. Like you just want to make sure you're taking care gradually, making sure you always have enough gas, you always have fuel. And for us it's the same, thinking about what we're doing as fuel for our body. But stress is part of it. I saw one of my favorite questions was the person who asked about how work is stressing them out. Like that's another aspect I'm thinking about in terms of how do we incorporate wellness in the workplace, at school, in our
mhm,
communities, all the spaces where we at, and also how to recognize how work is part of the stressors in our lives. And sometimes the jobs we have, the line of it's not a work, there's a difference between job and work. Those jobs are literally killing people because
mhm,
of the pressures, because of the lack of understanding sometimes, and because you expect somebody to continue working the same way, even in a pandemic, even when they're ill, even when they're grieving, even when they're going through challenges that require them to really take the time, care for themselves, and heal to be able to truly be an employee or be an entrepreneur, for example, right?
mhm.
Or having the resources to say, I need someone to talk to help me get those coping skills and tools that I need to be able to really be well. Being well should not be a luxury, right? Like being well should not be something where you have to fight for to have access to. And for you to literally have a wake up call, or those almost life or death situation, for you to say, okay, something different has to happen. And so I think doing those little things we talked about every day, right? I start my day with somebody mentioned mindfulness and gratitude, the ability to quiet your mind even for between 1 minute to 5 minutes. I do short ones, like not like a long 1 hour, right? Start small. I think if there's anything you heard from us today is the idea of prioritizing you and your health by doing one thing. Do not multitask. And this is coming from someone who thinks she can do multiple things. I can be working out, do this interview, take cookie at the same time, and
I think most of the time.
and I'm thinking of like, oh my God, I have something else to do when this is over. The ability to quiet your mind and do one thing at a time and focus on one thing, right? To be mindful, right? To be present in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Be present now and focus on that one thing. And then for you to think about gradually, what is that one thing that I need to do? But also finding ways to practice self-care, but finding ways to bring joy into your life, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
humor is key when you like, in spite of what you're going through, those things help relieve stress. Some people exercise. That's why they exercise, because they counter those low energy and your moods, because they really raise your energy up. But you have to decide, which exercise am I going to do? Am I going to do some steps in the house? And sometimes people think because of what I do that I'm super healthy. Like recently, I made a switch where I got a Fitbit, right? It's like first Fitbit ever. I feel like a super, like a Wonder Woman Fitbit.
Mm-hmm.
And it measures things, and I can see I'm taking steps. There are days I purposely take the stairs, and it tells me you did like 10,000 or more. And so I can see, even within the house, walking back and forth between like kitchen, bathroom, living room, like movement. I talk more about movement than like go and lift weight, like build in that direction. But really see this as you being on a path. It's on a continuum. And this is for life. Don't see this as like a short term so I can get a six pack, I can get a whatever. This is you making sure that you live, that you have vitality, you have energy, and you're able to maintain that, and you aging well. I want to age well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I'll be, have the same level of energy, but I don't want to be in pain. I don't want, muscles to like be creaking, for example. And then to think about how you want to live, like what you want to, where do you want to be, and the kind of life you want to have. So you get to create that. And that's part of health, right? The places you want to live in, because where you live has such a big impact on the life that you have. So I think a lot of time we can be stuck in a place. I see a lot of people willing to travel because of the pandemic, knowing I can work from anywhere. Would you rather work in a place with palm trees or like other things? But wherever you are, you have to think about, how am I gonna truly make part of taking care of myself a sacred practice? And you do it no matter what. It's not something you're gonna do, but you gotta do it for the sake of your own well-being, and for you to just live. This is the best happy ever have after you can have, right? To just be
Mm-hmm.
healthy, wealthy, and happy, no matter what age you are. So that's what I wish for your audience, regardless of what they do. But start with one thing, stick to it, but also do it together. That's one of the things I'm doing more of. Like I'm doing more group wellness, where we come together, like we learn how we being healthier from each other, how we practicing it, encouraging each other and be accountable, and then celebrating when you reach those goals, to say like, oh my goodness, I was able to drink water every day, or I was able to connect with other people. That's a huge thing people don't see as part of healthy. Like all conversation, like talking to another human being, even though it's virtual, that's something that can make you feel good and really improve your health. But also the idea of like, what are you thinking? What are you eating? What are you feeding your mouth? What are you putting on your body? But again, it's an inside job. This whole thing is an inside job. I
Oh,
know.
this is a mic drop. Yes, yes. The choices that you make as far as the food you eat, that is an inside job.
It is, and
No
that's
one
yours
is gonna
too.
choose for you. You make that choice.
Mhm.
Yes. And as you were talking about jobs earlier, and I learned that early on in my life when I started working, and I've seen people getting fired, people quitting, and people dying.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, it doesn't matter your position at the job, at the company, whether you are uh, the customer service rep, the cashier, or the store manager or the CEO, you are replaceable.
Mhm.
You are
So true.
replaceable. If you don't make a decision to take care of yourself, that's a big mistake.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you die today, the company will give you so the company so they will give your family 2 days to cry for you,
Mhm.
call 3 days to cry. Within those 3 days, trust me,
You need to
it
come
doesn't
back.
matter how good of a cashier you were, it doesn't matter how good of a manager you were, they're already interviewing somebody else
Mhm.
to replace you.
Yeah.
Now, the best thing that you can do for yourself is take care of it. Take care of
Of
yourself,
you.
of you. You comes, you come first. And I know the audience would love to have you for.
Like, let's stay. No, it's, but I hope they do one thing we say, and
Mhm,
again, it's not enough to sort of say, oh my God, this is great. I agree.
mhm.
You want to make me happy that we had this amazing conversation. And I love being in community together with every single one of your members who are typing and sharing and saying hello from the beginning till the end, is to actually do one of those things starting today. Just do
Mhm.
one of those things and then share them with Yvener. Put them in the comment and say, I went home and I did this. Or after the show, I drank some water. After the show, I took some step. After the show, I journal. After the show, I took 10 minutes and just quiet my mind today. You gotta do today, not I'm gonna do tomorrow or next year, right? And that's not even guaranteed. You can always prioritize your health and yourself today. You have this moment. So be healthy in this moment. Every moment you can be healthy and just savor it and in gratitude. So that's my final advice for your community, anyone who's listening now and also watching on replay. So I appreciate all of you.
So, final question. It's been so amazing. There's been so many mic drops here. So, and I know you're a consultant, you're a coach. How can someone either watching live or will be watching the rebroadcast? How can they contact you? How can they get in touch with
Contact
you?
me. So it's very easy to reach me. Ooh, I see a lot of love from Moina. Yes, thank you. I'm receiving all the love. I'm taking all the love.
They
You
send
can
you a lot of flowers here.
I see it and hearts. Yes. So 10kmarie.com. But IG is my playground. So if
Your
you go on
Instagram.
IG, click on that link, you can see all the ways you can reach me. And I want to hear from each one of you. I love engaging. You can DM me and find out what is going on. And so 10kmarie.com, literally, you see all the ways you can connect with me, find out how I can help you. And my goal, I want to help you improve your health. And I want you to be able to do that with less stress. But for you to decide you want to invest in that, do you want to invest in your own health and do it with less stress? And believe me, there's nothing, you don't want to live with stress or more stress in your life. And so take that opportunity and today to say, I'm going to reduce stress and I'll be able to help you. But also if there's someone you feel like that person can use the help, definitely send them my way. I would love to help as many as I can.
It's on the screen. All right. Or you can just go to Instagram and find. So, what's your Instagram handle?
Talk with Marie. Talk with Marie. Let's start with the conversation and then see how I can help you be healthier and happier. So I'm hoping everyone start planting those seeds today. Start planting those healthy habits so you can truly live the life that you want. And you get to create that every single day. You have an opportunity to create the life. And you're worthy. You're worthy of wellness and being healthy and living a healthy life. We all deserve that.
Thank you so very much, Marie. It's been such an honor to have you on the show. You shared so many amazing advices, and it's just like I said. I use the word mic drop all the time. So, mic drop. So, thank you so
How are you
much
feeling better?
for
Oh my
taking
God.
the time to share the space with us and with the audience. Lots of love coming from Moina and
Empty
me
Hazel.
and and all of these amazing people
Everybody.
all over the world. And please like and share and follow Marie on Instagram. Talk with Marie. And is it the same on Twitter as well?
So you'll be Talk with Marie one. There's the number one after it.
Okay, okay, awesome, awesome. So it was a pleasure having you, and I know you are very busy, so we will not keep you for another hour. So thank you so very much
Thank you, Yvener.
for being with us, and again, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
Healthy New Year to all.
Healthy New Year. Awesome.